we have made it to the final 20 seeds that need to be collected in our adventure on 3 hearts and minimum stamina. And those last seeds, well, they're all located here within Hyrule Castle. So we're going to need to hunker down and make sure that we pay extra attention and are very cautious running around and getting the last couple of items in our quest. And the first seed, or seed 881 of our adventure, is going to be over here on this section of the wall. We'll just lift the rock off this guy's head, liberate him, claim the seed, and move on after giving him some cover, because you're going to need every bit of protection here in Hyrule Castle as you can possibly muster. Seed number 882 is within Hyrule Castle, and I didn't particularly feel like taking on that Silver Lizalfo, so hitting him with a freezing arrow is enough to immobilize him, letting me sneak by. And then there's a bombable wall down here at the bottom of this staircase that we can knock out. If I can learn how to put the bomb down on the ground, we'll blast that out of the way, and then once you're inside that room, you can claim the contents of the chest. In fact, I highly recommend that you do, as this is going to be very useful for some of the final fights that we'll have to do. And finally, draw another arrow and shoot it at the acorn hanging from the ceiling of this small chamber. That being said, there's a lot more sneaking around that we are going to need to do to get the remaining seeds here. So for this next one, we will be heading outside to the first gatehouse. And this one is pretty easy to find. It's out of the vision of a lot of the guardians that could hone on to you. You've just got to make your way up to the top of this spire, which, as you can see, I'm having some difficulty with. But once you make your way up to the top, you will find a resting point where you can interact with these fairy lights and gain the seed from this location. Just be cautious, because if you actually go inside this gatehouse, you will trigger a fight with a Lionel, and if you're underprepared for that, well, things are going to go very, very poorly for you. From the top of the first gatehouse, it actually provides a very nice launch over to the next seed, which is going to be behind this bombable structure over here. We'll just glide in, place a bomb on the ground as close as we can, or just huck it into the needed spot before blasting away and lifting the rock from here. I thought that we were going to be done with lifting rocks, but as it turns out, there's still a couple of them to go. So we'll give this guy some cover before we leave him and head to the next spot, which, believe it or not, is going to be another wall section that we need to bomb. Now, I tried to use the paraglide bomb technique with that. Didn't quite get it close enough, as this wall does slope inward a little bit. So we'll recalibrate and try the toss method. And then we will make a rather long climb back up the top after taking out that guardian and claim the seed from here. We can give this guy the nice send-off that we've given the other Koroks up until this point before transitioning away from him to go over to the next seed, which is going to be atop gatehouse number 2, or the second gatehouse. This is identical to the previous gatehouse seed, where it's a set of fairy lights that's hanging out on top of the spire, and taking things a little bit slower and more calculated will assure that we can make our way up to the top of that spire without as many times falling off and needing to reset our climb. So patience really is what paid off for us there. We can then move back inside Hyrule Castle. We'll need to go through the dining hall and then take the hallway around the backside before blasting away this section to reveal a knight statue, which is holding a less than useful rusty claymore. In a pinch, I suppose you could use it as a weapon, but it's got very low durability. And then you will need to loose an arrow at the acorn hanging from the ceiling, much like a seed that we saw just a few minutes ago. Outside on the ramparts again, we have found our way to seed number 888 of our total collection. We'll want to lift the rock off of this guy's head, collect the seed, and then provide him some cover as we run from the guardians that are patrolling this area. Seed number 889 is a little bit harder to find. It's one of the more occulted seeds. And what you'll need to do to find this one is go down to the East Passage. That is one of the lowest entries to Hyrule Castle. You can interact with this chest and get yourself 5 bomb arrows, and then you'll want to load yourself into this minecart, take your round bomb specifically, so you can push it into the end of the minecart itself and detonate it. That will protect you from the blast as well as propel yourself forward. You will then need to exit the cart here and move over to these ice structures. Now, it's going to be best if you use a flame sword or other fire weapon, though I suppose you could fire into it with a couple of fire arrows if you really needed to. I honestly thought that we were going to be done with thawing out Korok seeds, but that was not the case at all. So we'll just bide our time, wait for these to melt down. It is the largest spire that you need to completely melt before the fairy lights will appear and allow you to interact with them so you can claim this seed. And boy, am I glad that there's nothing else cold related that we have to do, because these ones take an exorbitantly long amount of time. The next seed is a very interesting seed which you can only get if you have bird eggs on hand, as you will need to throw a bird egg into the pot of water in front of this statue, and as soon as it transitions over to a hard-boiled egg, you will be rewarded with the Korok seed from here. And I think that's my favorite of those type of puzzles I've seen, just due on how unique it is. But you do need to be prepared for it. We've been watching Link narrowly avoid some Guardian Fire here, all in an effort to lift this rock off of this poor little Korok's head and claim the seed from him, before providing him that much needed cover and backing away from him slowly so we ourselves don't get tanked in the face with a laser. Seed number 892 doesn't have a descriptor at the time of recording on zeldadungeon.net. I might go around and fix this myself, but what you will see is there is a ring of lily pads outside that you'll need to leap into the center of on these waterfall areas, and grabbing that seed will allow us to come one step closer to our completion. Seed number 893 is going to be another bombable structure. I learned my lesson from last time. Probably should have switched over to the rectangular bombs or the square bombs so it didn't roll away from me, but getting out of the clearance and blast area before detonating was really all we needed to do in order to free up this rock and claim the seed from the little guy hanging out underneath it. Though, as always, we need to give this guy the proper care that he needs within Hyrule Castle to assure that he is not bullied by any of the enemies around here. Seed number 894 is going to be the final archery puzzle in terms of multiple moving balloons. And this is going to involve 5 balloons that bob up and down at a variety of rates, but they are on the same plane. So once you have the depth down and you get a feel for their pattern, you'll be able to pop them very easily and claim the seed from here. And we are now rounding out the final seeds of our adventure and moving into some of the more dangerous territory. This next one is going to be atop the spire that oversees Zelda's chamber and study. You'll need to climb your way up to the top of this spire, and this is one of the more dangerous ones to grab due to the presence of the Guardian that's down below. You can take him out to make things a little bit easier on yourself, but overall, if you just kind of place yourself strategically on that spire, you shouldn't have to worry about him too much. Seed number 896 is going to be another stone, this one hanging out just across the bridge from where Zelda's study is located. It's in a spot where you're decently sheltered from some of your enemies, so you can lift this off of the top, grab the seed before dropping it back down on top of him and making your way back inside to, well, safety from laser fire at the very least. Seed number 897 is going to be probably the most obscurely hidden seed in all of Hyrule Castle. It is a singular rock that is hanging on top of what seems to be a rampart type shelf in a larger chamber. And, well, It certainly took me a minute to find it, though I did receive some help from using the stasis rune. We'll drop it back down on top of this guy's head before moving outside to the final time trial puzzle. I had previously thought we'd seen all of these, but nope, there was indeed one more. It's near the top of Hyrule Castle. You'll need to jump off of the Sanctum balcony and then climb the adjoining spire. I could have leapt up to the top there, as reaching the top of a tree or other item does restore your stamina, as it's considered a resting point, but we were able to make that lunge as part of the standard animation. The second to last seed of our overall journey is also met with a couple of ancient arrows, but then there is a singular balloon hanging out just above the bell at the top of Hyrule Castle. So we'll want to burst that balloon with a loose arrow and finally make the long trek up to the spire, the very top spire at the tip of Hyrule Castle, as there is a final set of fairy lights hanging out for us there as you see it come into view. Now, this has been a very interesting journey for me, so if you've made it this far into the video, well, you might as well hit the subscribe button, as it's clear you enjoy listening to my voice, at least to some extent. Don't forget to leave a like on today's video, and we will be back next week as we trade in all of the Korok seeds and finally take on the, the main bosses here in Hyrule Castle. So I want to thank you again for watching and joining me on this adventure, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.